Our family of 5 spent 2 days in Yellowstone National Park. Come along and see what we did.
Welcome to VO's Travel. Where to go and what to see. With kids.
At almost 3,500 square miles, Yellowstone National Park is huge. Most of it is in the northwestern corner of Wyoming, but there is a small part in Idaho and another small portion in Montana. What you need to know about the roads is there are 2 loop roads, a north loop and a south loop, and they make a figure 8. There are also 5 different entrances into Yellowstone, one coming from the south, one coming from the east, one coming from the northeast, which is the quietest, one from the north, and the most busy is coming from the west. We chose to come from the northeast corner so that we would be able to drive through Lamar Valley, and it was a gorgeous drive through the mountains. There were a couple high cliffs, but we survived. The town you get to right before the northeast entrance was super cute, too. We drove from Cody, Wyoming, which was about a 2-hour drive to the northeast entrance. When you enter there, the road will take you along Lamar Valley. That's where you'll see a lot of the wildlife at Yellowstone. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. That blue dot is an area called Tower Roosevelt. The green dot is Mammoth Hot Springs. The yellow dot is Norris Geyser Basin. The black dot is Canyon Village. The light blue dot is an area called Fishing Bridge. The orange dot is West Thump. And the purple area is probably the most well-known area of Yellowstone. That's where you'll find Old Faithful and the Grand Prismatic Spring. It's definitely the busiest, and there's a lot to see there. There's the Lower Geyser Basin, Midway Geyser Basin, and the Upper Geyser Basin. There's also the Fountain Paint Pot area, Biscuit Basin, and Black Sand Basin. One really important thing to note is that this year, 2021, the road from Tower Roosevelt to Canyon Village is closed. Okay, so back to Lamar Valley. When we entered that area of the park, we saw so much wildlife. It was amazing. We saw black bear, grizzly bear, pronghorn, and even a moose. One thing to note, when you see cars pulled over in Lamar Valley, or anywhere in Yellowstone for that matter, definitely pull over because they have probably seen an animal. Make sure to bring your binoculars too. Look, you see it? He's eating a bush straight through there.
I don't see it. Today we found our very first moose.
Look at it! Right in the middle there. Oh, that's so exciting! They're pretty rare at Yellowstone. We also took advantage of one of the many picnic areas along Lamar Valley for lunch. That reminds me, you have to download the Gypsy Guide. It's a free app, and what it is a GPS guided tour of Yellowstone National Park. There are a lot of other tours available, but obviously you need the one for Yellowstone for this trip. I believe it is $4 or $5 and worth every single penny. Your cell service does not work about 95% of the time that you are in Yellowstone, but your GPS does, and this app works right along with your GPS, so there are no problems there. You just have to make sure you download the tour while you do still have cell service. So what it is a GPS guided tour, and it will pick up your location, and it gives you information throughout your drive. It will tell you to turn right here for a picnic area. Ahead on your left is a gray area for grizzly bear. There's so much valuable information that this app tells you you cannot do Yellowstone without it, or you will be doing yourself a very big disservice. Here's just a little example.
Okay, folks, here we go. Let's go see Old Faithful by taking the well-marked exit ramp 1.5 miles ahead. The first thing we should do is to go and find out when the next predicted eruption is. There's a local joke here that says the best predictor is to see how many people are waiting on the boardwalk and around the seats.
Here's our itinerary. We drove in through Lamar Valley, skipped over Tower Roosevelt, and headed to Mammoth Hot Springs, where we did the first loop only of Mammoth Hot Springs Trail, then on to the Norris Geyser Basin, where we did the Porcelain Basin Trail, then on to Canyon Village, where we stayed the night and checked out the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. Day 2, we drove straight to Old Faithful with a quick stop at Beryl Spring. After Old Faithful, we backtracked to the Black Sand Pool. Next was the Grand Prismatic Overlook, and then on to the Lower Geyser Basin, where we did the Fountain Paint Pot Trail. We ended up leaving through West Yellowstone and had a great day doing everything. Let me show you in a little bit more detail about what we did. This was at Mammoth Hot Springs. Like I said, we only did the first loop, and that took us about a half hour. It was a well-paved trail, easy to walk on, but there was a steep incline that did take our breath away. The town of Mammoth Hot Springs looked really cute with lots of things to do, but the traffic was crazy, so we did not stop. They did have a couple hotels, some restaurants, a visitor center, a post office, and a general store, and some other things. I wish we had the time to stop.
We're at Mammoth
Hot Springs.
Hot Springs. And the trails are pretty steep.
Yeah. Takes your breath away, doesn't it?
Yeah. And there's even a hill that comes up, so it's really steep, so it's really hard to get up.
But we did it.
Yeah.
It took us about an hour drive to get from Mammoth Hot Springs to Norris Geyser Basin, which was our next destination.
We're gonna go up Porcelain Basin.
Basin. Porcelain Basin. 0.6 of a mile. The path was a boardwalk just like Mammoth Hot Springs. This area was super cool and it almost felt like we were on Mars. There was a steep incline here in this path as well. There were geysers, steam vents, beautiful pools, and some springs too. Tell me about the Porcelain Basin.
It was really cool, but it stunk like rotten eggs.
What did you see?
Teal water,
Anything else?
gray water.
What about the stuff that was
And
coming
smoke.
up?
There was smoke coming.
Steam.
Like steam.
Could you hear it?
Yes.
It was loud, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. This hike took us about 45 minutes. Next, we drove a half hour to Canyon Village. They had a general store, a fishing gear store, a visitor center, and a restaurant that was open the next morning for coffee as well. From there, it was a 15-minute drive to Artist Point Lookout at the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone.
Let's go to Artist Point and see the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone.
Let's go. Artist Point was just a 5-minute walk from the parking lot, and it was beautiful. We went about an hour or two before sunset, and the lighting was perfect. What do you think?
Really pretty. Sure.
What do you think?
Awesome sauce. Pretty cool.
We thought about doing the Brink of the Lower Falls Trail, which is a 3/4 mile trail, which is mostly stairs, but we decided not to because we were pretty tired for the day. From here, we headed back to our campground at Canyon Village for the night. That reminds me, if you'd like to camp inside Yellowstone National Park, you have to make your reservation 6 months prior. And a lot of times, the reservations for that date will sell out within 10 minutes of opening that morning. So do your research and be on your computer the exact time that reservations open. Or if you would like to stay at one of Yellowstone's hotels or lodges, those reservations open up on May 1st of the year prior. So if you are looking for a reservation for the summer of 2023, that reservation will open up on May 1st of 2022. And again, those sell out very quickly, and lodges and hotels can be very expensive in Yellowstone. The next morning, we got up bright and early, got coffee at Canyon Village, and headed towards Old Faithful so we could be one of the first to get there in the morning. We drove counterclockwise from Canyon Village through Norris and down to Old Faithful. We did stop at Beryl Spring. It added about 15 minutes to our drive to Old Faithful, but it was well worth it, and it was a really quick stop. Beryl Spring's parking lot was right off of the road, and it was just a 2-minute walk to get to the actual spring. My kids really loved it. It was chilly that morning, so I think the steam was a little extra, but it put on a great show. Where are we at?
Beryl Spring.
Is it a hike?
No.
So we hopped back in the car and made our way to Old Faithful. Old Faithful has everything. It has an inn, a lodge, some rental cabins, tons of stores, a visitor center, and a humongous parking lot in that area. One tip, park in the way back, because when you do leave, hundreds of other people will also be leaving, and you do not want to be stuck in that traffic. After we parked, we headed towards Old Faithful and a little to the left and hit up the visitor center to find out what time Old Faithful was due to erupt. We arrived around 9 a.m., so we had about an hour before the eruption. Evidently, every morning at 9 a.m., they raise the flag, and we just happened to be there at that time, and a ranger asked my children to participate. It was a really cool experience. Since we had time to kill, we headed over to the Old Faithful Inn. It is the largest log cabin structure in the world, and you cannot miss stopping to see this thing. You need to make time in your schedule to check it out. It's gorgeous. As you leave the inn, to your right, you will see hundreds of people waiting for Old Faithful. We still had time, so we decided to take the little walk to the left and around Old Faithful, and I'm so glad we did. The point that I'm marking here is where we ended up stopping to watch Old Faithful, away from all the crazy people. We ended up watching it with maybe 10 people around us as opposed to hundreds and hundreds in the blue area. And this is what it looked like. This was just one of the beautiful springs we passed on that walk. Would you recommend we watch Old Faithful from the benches or from here?
Here.
Why?
Less people, and there's the lodge in the background.
The view of the lodge in the background. Old Faithful erupts on average every 74 minutes. It shoots between 100 and 180 feet high, and the eruption can last anywhere from 1.5 to 5 minutes long. And just for reference, here's a picture of the hundreds of people waiting for Old Faithful in the designated seating area. I highly recommend this next stop. It's a 5-minute drive north from Old Faithful, and it's called the Black Sand Pool. What is so different about this is that you can sit on the ground and you can actually feel the earth thump a few times before this pool actually starts to bubble. Not many people know about this, and it's a little bit off the beaten path, so we were the only people there during our experience. Here is a bird's eye view of the area. Like I said, you'll drive about 5 minutes north from the Old Faithful area and park in the Black Sand Basin parking lot, which is right there. You will get out of the car and leave the Black Sand Basin area, cross the street, and then there's a little secluded path right there. It takes about a 15-minute walk to actually get to the Black Sand Pool right there. You do pass a beautiful pool and spring as you're leaving the basin and getting ready to cross the road. When you do cross the road, this is what the path will look like. We were getting a little hungry, but it wasn't lunchtime yet, so we grabbed a snack to take with us. Definitely have bear spray on this walk because it is very secluded and you never knew what you might come across. We are at the Black Sand Pool and we're gonna sit on the ground and feel it underneath us. If we walk in, and this is a clock in front of us, we're at 6 o'clock. Where is 9 o'clock?
Right there.
Over there. We're gonna go sit on the ground at 9 o'clock. Let's go. You'll be entering the area like this blue arrow shows. You will arrive at 6 o'clock. There's a fence around it, so go to the left a quarter way around the pool, and there you will find 9 o'clock. When we first got there, we sat, but after a few minutes, we actually laid down and got a little comfy. You have to be very quiet and still and aware of your surroundings to feel it. I think we missed it the first time, but definitely caught it the second time around. You will feel 3 large thumps underneath you, and then the pool will start to bubble. So if it bubbles without the thumps, you'll know that you have missed it, and you'll need to wait for next time around. It seems to bubble or erupt, if you will, about every 10 minutes, so you shouldn't have to wait long. I was able to get a sound bit from the National Park website, so this is what it sounds and feels like. All in all, we spent about 45 minutes here. 15 minutes to walk there, 15 minutes at the pool, and then 15 minutes back to the car. Next, we chose to go to the Grand Prismatic Spring. It's about a 15-minute drive north of the Black Sand Basin parking lot. There are 2 ways to see the Grand Prismatic Spring, one from the Overlook, the view that you see here, and then one from street level, which if you look closely, you can see a boardwalk with a few dozen people on that boardwalk. I've heard that view does not give a very good point of view to the spring because you are so close to it and you can't really see or grasp the whole thing at the same time. So we chose to forego that view and we did the Overlook instead, which I was really happy we did. It's gorgeous. You need to park at the Ferry Falls Trail parking lot. The parking lot needs to be a lot bigger because this is an extremely busy area and there's just not enough parking spots for everybody. So there are cars lined up against the road for a long time. So we probably had a 10-minute walk from our car just to get to the trailhead. There were a couple small attractions on our walk to get to that trailhead, like this one here. Make sure you wear good shoes because this trail is not paved. So you will start on the Ferry Falls Trail, and after a little bit of time, the Grand Prismatic Overlook Trail will split off from the Ferry Falls Trail.
We're at Ferry Falls Trail, and we're gonna go see Grand Prismatic Spring.
Good job. The trail is 1.6 miles out and back and took us about 1 hour and 20 minutes. We did stop to relax at the top for maybe 15 minutes to get some really good pictures and to cool down. What do you think about this?
Very cool.
The first half of the trail there is pretty flat and easy, but the second half to get up to the overlook is fairly steep and it really takes your breath away. 15 minutes up the road is the Lower Geyser Basin parking lot. We parked there to do the Fountain Paint Pot Trail.
We're going to do the Fountain Paint Pots Trail.
Let's go! The boardwalk was flat, no inclines. It was about 0.6 miles and it took us about 15 minutes to walk around it. There was all kinds of boiling, bubbly mud and lots of geysers on this trail too. It was a really great walk. All in all, we spent about 30 minutes at the Lower Geyser Basin for the Paint Pot Trail. And we were really glad we stopped here because the bubbling mud features were something that we hadn't seen anywhere else in Yellowstone. We ended up leaving Yellowstone through West Yellowstone at around 2:30 that day. We really enjoyed our time at Yellowstone and I'm so glad that we went. Now on to Glacier. Look for that video next. Thank you so much for your support, and as always, remember to choose joy and take all of the pictures.